Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. This week we are jumping back over to the blue plaid 1850s outfit that looks like this right now. So I have not done anything yet since where I left you off in 2 weeks ago's video, but that means that I have a lot to do. Actually, I really don't have that much to do, but I have a fair amount to do, and I'm hoping maybe we can actually get this project finished in this video. So keep your fingers crossed for me. Obviously, there's something missing from this bodice. Sleeves. We're missing the sleeves. So that's going to happen this week. However, I'm going to be starting with my skirt. I have all of the skirt panels cut out, which are just rectangular panels. There are four, well, actually, technically there are 3 2/2 of them. I talked about how they're going together in the last video, so if you haven't seen that last video, go check that out. I will link that right up above and also down below in the description. And I need to cut out cotton organdy for the flat lining for those skirt panels. So it's really annoying to do that, honestly, because the skirt panels are way bigger than my sewing table. So I basically have to press the cotton organdy within 1 inch of its life, which is like super annoying. If you've ever pressed cotton organdy, you know. So I have to press it within 1 inch of its life and get it nice and smooth, lay out the panel on top of it, and then pin out around the top and bottom and side edges of like the, I don't know, 25 inches or so that fit on my cutting table, and then also pin along the edge of the table, and then we'll kind of roll that edge up and shift it over and get more of it, and maybe do that a 3rd time because these panels are like 55 inches wide. So I'm gonna go work on all of that. And then I'm going to assemble my skirt panels, which they are going to have pockets, of course, and the opening is going to be in the center back, and just standard skirt construction with inseam pockets like I've done a bazillion times on this channel. So I'm going to put those together, put that on a waistband, and then we're probably going to move back to more interesting things like sleeves. So 30 minutes ago, when I was outside with Cookie, it was nice and sunny, and I was like, great, I'm gonna go starch my petticoats. And then I just came in here now to grab my petticoats, and I look out the window and it's gray and breezy, and I'm just like, the weather app still says it's supposed to be sunny, and I really want to get these starched so that I can work on hems and stuff. So I think I'm gonna starch them anyway. I have a little bit of liquid starch left. To my knowledge, it has been discontinued, but that is the Stay Flow starch. I also just have like a container of cornstarch, so I may mix those together. But basically it just takes a lot of hot water and starch, and you dip them in. I've done a full video, maybe even 2 videos about how to starch a petticoat, so I will link that video right up here and also down below in the description. But I'm gonna go attempt to starch my petticoats, even though it looks gray outside, and even though I really hate starching petticoats. Like, I wish that this was just something that we magically didn't have to do, but unfortunately it's necessary. So I'm gonna go starch some petticoats. You're gonna have to bear with the barking dog next door, but I just finished the starching process. They are now hanging out in actual sunshine. The sun has come back out. So I don't know how long they'll take to dry. I'm definitely concerned that I did not do enough starch. I feel like normally when I use the right amount of starch, they feel filmy and gross, and this unfortunately doesn't. Like when I wring it out, the water looks filmy and gross, but the petticoats themselves don't feel filmy. I used half a can of the powder, it's like starch, actual starch, and I didn't use any of the liquid starch because it seemed starchy enough in the pot, and I am probably regretting that. I'm hoping that I haven't literally like washed out what starch was left in here only to have it not even be starchy enough. And there goes the sun. We'll see if this actually works or not, I guess. And I'll update you when they dry eventually. This is the starch that I used, by the way. I used most of the container, but it was not entirely full. It was probably down about 1 inch. But yeah, I felt like I used a lot, but I also didn't measure. I don't know how many ounces are cups, and I'm supposed to use like at least half a cup to, I don't know, I probably honestly used more water than that even needs. So yeah, I probably should measure this sort of thing, and I didn't. These skirt panels are assembled, and this just feels like so much fabric. I don't know how this feels like so much more fabric than the yellow ball gown, but I really think it does. I've been looking at some various like pleat methods, like of gowns that are on the Met website, for example, because you can see really, really up close on their website, which is really fantastic. I will link the website down below so you can go take a look. But a lot of them have this like stacked pleat sort of thing where it's like coming off in certain points. So like here, and then I think always the same place in the back also. So it's like quarters, and then maybe there's sometimes more of that. It seems like an interesting idea, though this seems like so much fabric for that, but I might try it, and otherwise I'm probably gonna do knife pleating as my guess. So I've just pleated up the first half of this here with those stacked box pleats, and I basically did like offset stacked box pleats because I saw that in one of the dresses at the Met, and I think it's really cute, and it wound up being pretty much perfect. I had to do a little zhuzhing for like getting it halfway around, but I think it's really cute. Also, can we talk about how easy it is to pleat plaid like with this big repeat? So now I just have to get the other side to match and we should be golden. Also, Cookie says hi. Hi, Cookie. You say hi to the camera. Don't lick the camera. What a cutie. The pleats and waistband are all done. I think it looks really, really great. I really like this like stacked pleats sort of look here. I think it's just so pretty. I've never done this before. So this is now ready to be hemmed, but before I can do that, I have to press the petticoats that I have starched. So time to go press some petticoats. By the way, I forgot to mention this, but because I was worried about this being not starched and stiff enough at all, something that I actually decided to try and that turned out being successful was I took the liquid starch that I had, which was the Stay Flow starch. Again, they've unfortunately discontinued it, but I still had like half a bottle, and I took some of that and just put it in a regular spray bottle. And while this was still really quite wet, it had barely dried at all. Like it wasn't dripping at that point, but it was still totally soaked. I just took the spray bottle and literally sprayed all over this petticoat, and it is nice and stiff. I should have done it to the other petticoat too. The other one is like just a plain petticoat with one ruffle at the bottom, so it's not as important. This is really what provides the most body. And the other one had the starch that I soaked things in, but again, that was not a high enough concentration. So this actually worked really great. It makes me wonder if that sort of thing just like works period and it doesn't necessarily have to be soaked, or if it's the combo of the two that made it work really well. But I now have to press all of these ruffles because right now it's super, super wrinkly, and we want this to be like paper stiff and nice and just smooth. So let's go press a giant petticoat. Actually, two. Just so you can see a side-by-side comparison, this is the unpressed. This is what it looks like once it has been pressed. So it is still very, very stiff, but it feels thinner and nicer and obviously smoother, but it really does retain that stiffness of the starch. So yeah, that's what a starch petticoat looks like. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. This is the finished base petticoat that is nicely pressed. And this is the lovely ruffled petticoat. It looks so much more full now. Honestly, it's amazing. So now I can go ahead and put everything on and do the hem. I lied, I'm not doing the hem yet because just so that I have a tiny bit more to try on, I've decided I'm gonna make a sleeve mock-up. So this is the sleeve pattern from the Truly Victorian pattern I've been working with, and I feel like it's really wide. It also honestly seems really long, so I'm not going to modify it longer like I normally would, because just kind of holding this around my arm and like looking at where it hits compared to where it seems like pagoda sleeves hit in fashion plates, this seems long because they did not normally actually hit the wrist. I think they were usually a little bit shorter than that. So yeah, I'm just gonna cut it out as is in what I am planning to do as my lining fabric, which is the cotton sateen that I got in Vancouver. I have to admit, a lot of these are actually lined with what looks like white silk. I don't have, well actually I do have white silk. I got cream silk in Vancouver too, but to use it as a lining feels rude. So I don't think I'm gonna use white silk as a lining. I like the idea of using the blue. I think that's very pretty. A lot of them also have, along with the white silk, they've got white pleated ribbon all along the inside of the pagoda opening. That is not across the board. It's just that it looks like a lot of the ones lined with white silk, but not all of them, also have that white ribbon. I'm not gonna do that. that's more work that I want to do. What I might do is I might add trim. So I've got 3 options from my stash. I don't know if I love any of these, to be honest. One is just velvet ribbon, little narrow blue velvet ribbon. I do have wider too, but it's a dustier blue. I don't like it as much. The other one is this green lace. I don't know that I love it though. And it's a very like olivey green, very deep green really compared to what I've got going on the dress. It does, I think, work. It's not my favorite. And then the other is this yellow and blue braid here. I do like this. I think it might be bringing out a little bit too much yellow, but it is the right yellow, it is the right blue. The only kind of question mark there is that my bustle dress that I, you know, would love to make before Victorian Festival, but it's feeling very unlikely, is this exact shade of yellow and blue. And so I'm like, if I use it now, can't use it for that. I mean, I don't need all of it, but I don't know yet what that dress is going to look like even. And so I might want all of that for that. I don't know. So I'm going to play around with the trims and see once I've cut out the actual, but for now, I am just going to cut out the mock-up in this and see how it goes. Easy is helping me cut out the sleeve pattern, and I did actually decide to alter it just slightly because thankfully I measured this along the armscye here, which is supposed to be eased into the armscye, and I also measured my armscye, and this was smaller than my armscye. To ease something in, you need about 1 inch extra. So I've increased by 0.75 inches on either side and just kind of gradually tapered that up to that point, and that should do well. Honestly, I kind of feel like this is more of a swing out than I want anyway, but I want to try it first, and then if I need to kind of taper it in just a little bit, great, but I think that that's going to be really good. This is what it looks like with that 1 inch of ease. Honestly, I think that was actually a little bit too much. So I think that in the final, I might get rid of a tiny bit of the ease just because I don't like the wrinkle look. Obviously, we're seeing gathering stitches here too, which adds to it. And this is a thinner fabric than when it'll be together. But I probably only need about 3/4 of an inch ease, maybe even 1/2 inch that I could get away with. It looks really nice and smooth back here. It's just up here that it's quite a bit more wrinkly. But there is our sleeve mock-up. So let's try everything on. All right, we have a try on here. This sleeve is huge. It's way too big. Like, I don't know what's going on with this pattern because pagoda sleeves really are not shaped this way. Like it's too big up here is what I'm talking about. It is also too big down here in the pagoda itself, but it is so just like loosey-goosey floppy up here. And pagodas were usually, and of course they're all different, but usually they were a little bit narrower at the top and then opened up a little bit more, kind of like we can see with this one right here. So yeah, I need to take some of the size out anyway, just because it's too eased. Like it is too large for this armscye. I don't like seeing that much almost gathering as far as like what easing is. So I need to fix that. And then in doing so, I am also going to taper this seam down like this, and then also make this smaller as well. I don't know exactly how much smaller I have to go, but I think we're looking at easily 5 inches, if not more, taken out of here. Honestly, like what I have right here, that's like 7 inches. So it's definitely way too wide. Most pagoda sleeves were just not that wide. I obviously don't have my little sleeve puffs in here right now because I'm pretty sure that I sewed them into the purple dress that I made in 2022. So I have to unsew them out of that one. They're just whip stitched in place. Should be no big deal. Getting to the closet is the harder thing. So I do have to get those out for obviously once this is like done. But yeah, this is not it. So I'm going to fix this and show you what it looks like once I fixed it. Also, while I'm at it, the other thing that I noticed that definitely has to happen, besides obviously hemming the skirt, is the fact that the bodice seems to really want to pull up from the skirt in the back. I think it's also that the skirt is just kind of pulling down in the back. So I'm going to put 2 large skirt hooks and bars in that area so that I can just connect them in the back, or at least have someone help me, because I usually find that those are pretty hard to do. But that way they shouldn't separate at all. They will kind of hold on to each other. The neckline is honestly a little bit tighter than I would like to. Too late to fix that, frankly, short of like maybe moving the button over a tiny bit, which I might do actually, because otherwise, yeah, I mean, even if I move it to there. I think that would be more comfortable. So I probably will move that button over. Oh, actually, I don't know that I can move the button over. I don't know that I've got room to do that. I might move the button over as far as I can, which is maybe 1/4 of an inch, and kind of have that little bit of extra room. It's a bit tight. Haven't sewn the collar on yet, obviously. And the other thing that I'm going to do is hem this. I'm really glad that I had allowed myself for a super deep hem, or what I thought was going to be a super deep hem, because now that I have starched the petticoat, it's not that deep. So the hem's actually going to be pretty narrow, especially in the back. And yeah, I'm just going to turn that up twice. The front's going to be pretty deep, but I'm going to turn that up twice, pin that in place. That's going to get hand sewn because there's just no way to hide machine sewing on a big silk dress when you don't have trim. So yeah, I'm going to pin that in place, press, and hand sew that. But let's address the sleeve. I'm feeling torn on the hem because I know that historically accurately, this actually is the length that they would have done with just a little bit of drag in the back. However, I am going to be walking around Port Townsend in this, hi Cookie, and having like a little train on the ground, particularly if it is potentially wet at all, which like I'm gonna be screwed if it is because the skirt's too big for an umbrella, but that is going to be, you know, not very good. So I think I'm going to take it up at least another 1/2 inch from where I currently have it. The front might be okay. This green stripe that you're seeing right in the middle, that is the center front, this right here. So that might be okay. It's already about 1 inch or so off the ground, I think. But also if my petticoat deflates at all, like if it's damp, my petticoat might deflate. That would be bad. So maybe I'll just take the whole thing up another 1/2 inch at least. Okay, it's nearly impossible for me to film the back of the skirt, but I hope that you can see that there is a lot less drag. It's more like a brush now, and it's just off, but if I move certain ways, then we get the brush, and then over here we are off the ground now. So I think that's a lot better. I brought it up actually like I think 1/2 inch in the front, but 1.5 inches in the back, because it just isn't practical to have that much of a drag in Port Townsend. So yeah, that looks much better. I'm gonna make the other side match and press and hem that. The hem has been fully pressed and pinned. I don't know why it is suddenly looking long on this side. I think it's just the movement of the skirt, but everything is even on both sides. That's the nice thing about plaid. It's actually pretty easy to do that. So yeah, that's ready to be hand sewn. It's that time of day again when the lighting is really weird, so apologies for that. But we have sleeve mock-up number 2, or at least 1.2. I took so much out of this. I don't know if you can see all of the extra fabric in this, so much. And frankly, I think that the pagoda part, I think that's good size-wise. I still feel like up here it is too much fabric. It's of course not helped by the fact that I have all the excess in there now, but I do think that I need to taper this in a little bit and then bell it out. I did a more gradual like bell out, but yeah, it just still seems too big. I'm also getting kind of like weird wrinkles when I move my arm. You can notice them going on over here. Usually something like that means that it's not set in correctly, so I may have to look at that, whether that maybe needs to come up a little bit, like have some of the rise of the sleeve come out. I did change my shoulder line, you know, slightly from the pattern, so that makes sense that that would be different. But I also hemmed up this quite a bit more than it's meant to, other than down here at the seam. I think I need to actually take more out at the seam because it feels like it's too long over here. This length I think is good over here, so still a few more tweaks to do. Well, I have moved the shoulder up quite a bit in this area right here. I also took it up a little bit in the very back because it felt like it was really poofing back there. And I also then folded this up like about 3/4 of an inch here at the seam, and I tapered this down and then had it go out at the elbow. And I think now I have a sleeve that I am at least close to happy with. We're still getting mega wrinkles here. I don't know what's going on there. I've taken it up kind of as much as the sleeve will allow me without like cutting off the excess at this point. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go ahead and take this off, open it back up, like cut off all the excess, transfer all those markings to the paper pattern so that if I use this for the future, I know what I did, and cut out the silk and the other lining piece here, and then put those on, and once that is together, see if I need to do more tweaking. The thing is, of course, that I also will have trim that needs to go on this, most likely at least. And really, you are supposed to do the trim before you do the lining, but the thing is that, like, if I change the shape particularly of the bottom of the hem, then that would throw off the trim. I think I like the bottom. Hopefully that's not an issue. So hopefully I can go ahead and do the trim before I put the lining on. But yeah, you are supposed to do that first, and it's a bit of a risk of like not having this 100%, but I think we're close enough that I can go ahead and cut stuff out and continue with the sleeves. Just to give you a bit of an idea of the alterations that we did to this sleeve, this is the before, the pattern that I started with, and I did also start just a little bit wide up here, and then this is the after. So huge difference. I mean, we lost so much room just across the whole sleeve, and I think this is so much better. So I'm gonna mark all these new lines on this pattern so that I can use it in the future, and we will cut out the silk. The sleeves are cut out, and I might actually have enough of this left to even get a ball gown bodice out of this at some point. So that's pretty cool. Maybe that would be an option if I don't have time for the bustle dress, to do just a ball gown bodice for this for Saturday night. That could be something that I do. I definitely prefer this trim of the three that I showed you, but to be honest, I don't know that I love it, and I don't think I'm going to know until the sleeves are together. So even though you are meant to sew the trim on at this point before you have a lining, because otherwise you're going to see the machine stitches if I do machine stitches through the lining, I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to wait until everything is actually all together and I can see if I actually like it or not. And if I don't, I'll nix the trim entirely. If I do, you know, here we go. Here's the trim. I can either sew it on by machine or by hand. If I do sew it by machine, what I might do is put like a little lace on the underside so that you don't see the machine stitches. Because it's a wide sleeve, you wind up seeing the inside of the sleeve. So that's the thing. But yeah, I kind of like that one. This one was awful. This is just as I kind of thought. It's the wrong green. It's just way too dark. And frankly, like, this was fine, but it was a little bit boring. And also this can't really go around a curve, so that would have been a pain to try to navigate, and I would have needed two of them next to each other, and I just didn't love it. So yeah, this one's definitely my favorite, but we'll see if I actually go for it or not. Let's wait until I put these sleeves together. The first step in doing these sleeves is to put the seam of the sleeve together on each piece separately. Then you take the sleeves and put them right sides together and pin around the bottom hem of the sleeve, and I'm going to sew this and then turn it right sides out. Once it's right sides out, I can continue with the construction of the sleeve kind of as a normal sleeve. Now that I've turned it right sides out, I've given it a really nice press right here along the hem. I like to kind of roll the outer in just a smidge so that you don't get any of the lining on the outside. And now what I've done is I've pinned the top of the sleeve, kind of matching it all up. I'm going to run that through the serger and then also run a gathering stitch through there and set that into the armscye. I have sleeves. They are honestly a little bit more eased in than I would have liked. Like, you can just see kind of the easing there that looks almost like tiny gathering. So I don't know if I will wind up fixing that or not, but for now I'm gonna leave it. And I think for now, let's turn our attention to trim instead. Yes, I've got both outfits on the form at once, basically. But yeah, I'm gonna put some trim on there and see if I like it. I'm not really mad at either sleeve. I'm leaning towards this one, but I don't know if it's because the yellow skirt is on the form right now. I think I need to go get the plaid skirt, which I'm in the process of hemming, and put that on the form with the bodice to see which one goes overall, because it might just be too much of a departure from anything else on the dress with the yellow when it doesn't have a different yellow skirt on it. So I had been feeling really indecisive about the sleeve trim, which I did mention to you, but I didn't show you like all of the different options that I decided to kind of test out and put on my Instagram as like polls and stuff. So we started, of course, with this option, which was just the yellow. And I just wasn't really feeling it. And then there was also this option, which was 2 strips of the blue velvet. And it's like, okay, a little bit better. According to my Instagram polls, you guys seem to like the blue velvet a little bit better than the yellow, but not like a huge difference there. And then I was like, ooh, what about this, which is beading lace. Beading lace is where you weave a ribbon through the lace, and it's with the blue velvet ribbon woven through that. And you guys were like completely split. Like, it was literally, I think, 51% to 49% of which one you like better between the beading lace and the blue velvet, though the blue velvet was just a tiny edge ahead. And I decided there was just something lacking about the beading lace, like it needed maybe 2 strands of the lace or something like that, and I don't have enough to do that. And then a couple of you had suggested, what if you layer the yellow over or between the blue velvet? So I also tried this, but I decided it was just too clunky. So I finally have my trim on. I did make my decision eventually, and it helped when I was kind of putting other things with it. Like, for example, I also have the collar sewn on, which I really can't show you while holding it up or it wants to flip everywhere. But yeah, this is a vintage or antique collar that is just kind of large whip stitch around the, just below the piping. So you can see the piping is on the edge, and then this has been stitched down on top. And I did actually taper down the front of this a little, so you can see we kind of lose the edge right here and the front gets folded down, and that's because that was how it was just fitting over the shoulder. Like the curve wasn't quite right, so I just made my own curve. And I also don't really super love what it's doing with the overlap. Basically what's happening here is that when this gets buttoned up correctly, the left side here, it wants to just slightly overlap where like the edge of the right side is. The thing is that it doesn't want to really stay there. It kind of like flips up a little. So I did make a tiny little thread bar here, but I don't really have like the smallest size hook, which I feel like is what I would want. So I haven't added the hook on yet. And also, frankly, it's probably going to be covered by a brooch, so I don't know if that's necessary. I'm going to wait and see like what brooch maybe will go best with it. But anyway, once I added that and once I kind of pinned in the under sleeves, I stole them from my other plaid dress, and just like literally there's like 2 safety pins that are just holding these in, because I realized that apparently even with the other dress, I just pin them in. I use like 5 or 6 safety pins, so I will do a better job like once I have it on and can see exactly where they need to pin into the lining. But for right now, they're just there as kind of a look. And yeah, as you can see, I went with the 2 strands of the velvet. I am also going to add some really narrow lace around the inside of the bottom. I'm going to hand sew that in, so that's the next step. And actually, that's the last step, because as soon as I hand sew that in, this outfit is done. And then it'll just be like trying it on and making sure that, you know, the sleeves are put in, the lower sleeves are put in correctly. But the hem's all done, the hooks are on the waistband, everything is all set. So very exciting, and I will put that lace in and show you what the full outfit looks like. So yeah, I'm gonna go sew that lace in and let's take a look at the final reveal. Well, there we go. You do get kind of a mini reveal after all. And I'm also releasing this back to back with the first vlog, which I honestly didn't expect until I basically filmed this final here. So this bonnet that I'm wearing is one that I made a really long time ago. I want to say 2014 $15 or something like that. And although it is a slightly more purpley blue, I think it totally works with this outfit, which is great because I don't have time to make a new bonnet. And overall, I'm really pleased with this outfit as well. Surprisingly enough, I still only have these cuff things pinned in with those 2 safety pins that I mentioned before, and it seems to be working that way. So I might actually just stick with that and not put in additional safety pins or anything like that, because yeah, I think that they are working just fine. I'm really pleased with the way that I trimmed the sleeve. I think that that looks great. Everything else is feeling really good as well. This was the brooch that I opted to go with today. I don't know if it's going to be the one that I wear for Victorian Festival, but it just seemed kind of that sort of more subdued like the rest of this costume as opposed to more flashy. I opted to not even go with a belt at all because I was looking at a couple of different ones and I just didn't like the way that they sat on the bodice. I kind of like the way that I've got the blue down here and almost looks like a belt. Now that said, as I was putting this on, I realized that I forgot to ever do the hooks and bars that are attaching the bodice to the skirt. So the bodice is riding up just a little bit. I definitely do want to put those on before Victorian Festival. That should take me, you know, less than 10 minutes to do, so no problem there. I am also just vaguely, slightly concerned about hem length, mostly for if it's wet, because I noticed that anytime that anything kind of got in the way, like as I'm walking through my house where there's not enough room for a hoop skirt and was having to like push up against a wall or whatever, I was then stepping on the skirt. And so that concerns me a little bit. I'm not gonna have time to re-hem it before the Victorian Festival, so hopefully it will just be fine and I will probably learn my lesson there, especially if it is rainy. But overall, I'm really pleased with this, especially considering it came together honestly so quickly. This fabric just spoke to me the minute that I saw it up in Vancouver, and this is exactly what it spoke to me, so yay! But yeah, those are all of my thoughts on this project. Before I completely finish up this video though, I do want to say a quick thank you to 3 of you who were so lovely and have sent me things recently to my P.O. box. So Michelle actually sent me more of the blue fabric that is the cotton fabric that I used for my 19 teens doll size dress. I'm hoping that maybe there's enough to make myself a dress out of this. Thank you so much, Michelle, for sending this to me. I am definitely, like, that project has been on my to-do list, so I'm definitely going to be doing that hopefully this summer, so stay tuned for that project. And then speaking of doll things, Terry was so sweet and sent me some doll patterns and kits for clothes for dolls. So that is so cute. Thank you so much, Terry. And then Virginia was so sweet and sent me a whole bunch of zippers. There's actually even more than what I'm holding here. I've already started to put some of them away, but just a whole bunch of zippers, especially in like white and neutral, since I wasn't able to get those from my Joann's. So thank you so much, Virginia. And that is going to be it for me for this video. Hopefully you liked this video. If you did like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, usually with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays, and sometimes with additional costuming or sewing related content out on Saturdays, but I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube. I'd also like to give a humongous thank you to all of my absolutely wonderful patrons, particularly my patrons at the Romantic, Victorian, and Edwardian level tiers, who are Jean, Kim, Audra, Janet, Deborah, Rowan, Robin, Nurse Anita, Jen, and Dale. Thank you all so much, and thank you all for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!